We're continuing to follow the latest fallout over a recently released secret recording of then-candidate Donald Trump and his former longtime attorney. In a tweet earlier, the president blasts Michael Cohen, writing, quote, "What kind of a lawyer would tape a client? So sad." The president also went on to question why the audio, which was released by Cohen's lawyer to CNN, cuts off so abruptly.
Now, in that nearly 3-minute recording, you can hear the two discussing a payment involving former Playboy model Karen McDougal. She claims that she had an affair with Mr. Trump, though the president denies that allegation. CBS News has not verified the tape's authenticity. With more insight into questions raised about possible violations of campaign finance law, we are joined now by CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman. So, Rikki, with the release of this tape, there's been sort of all this discussion about whether or not this is an indication that Cohen is going to roll over on the president, is going to, wants to strike a deal with prosecutors. But when you listen to this tape, do you hear the president doing anything illegal?
Well, it may not be illegal now. The question is, how does it fit into the idea of what might be illegal? And what are we talking about here? We're talking about a campaign finance violation. We're talking about something for the Federal Election Commission. And what do I mean by that? If American media paid Karen McDougal to catch and kill a story, which is what we believe has happened out there, and they paid her money, and now then candidate Trump and Michael Cohen are having a conversation about, well, maybe that's not secure enough. Maybe what we need to do is actually buy the rights to her story and pay either her or American media for that story. Why? Because you never can tell what will happen with David Pecker, the head of American media. After all, and this is a paraphrase of a quote, he might get hit by a truck. So, and I'm not making that up, that's part of this. So what they want to do is they want to control Karen McDougal's story and make sure it does not come out before the election. Whether or not that's a campaign finance violation remains to be seen. But what we do know is if they know about it, and if they know even that American media paid for this story in order to silence her before the election, somehow it is looked at as an in-kind campaign contribution. It's got to be accounted for somewhere, and we have good reason to believe it was never accounted for.
So, Rikki, I want to play a little bit of the tape that Michael Cohen released to the public yesterday, along with his attorney, Lanny Davis. Let's play that.
So I'm all over that. And I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be...
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
pay the kid.
No. I got... No.
All right. So what we hear in the tape and what Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, is disputing is whether or not candidate Trump said cash or check. Why does Rudy Giuliani feel that that distinction is so essential?
Well, in reality, it probably doesn't matter if they were going to set up a dummy corporation, as they allegedly did with Stormy Daniels, in order to conceal the payment. So whether you're concealing it with cash or you're concealing it with a dummy corporation, it's still concealed. They don't want it out there in the public. It's just when you look at cash, it smacks of something far more illegal. We don't want payoffs in cash because the usual purpose of that is not to account for them. Once you set up a dummy corporation, it can be traced, which is precisely what happened with Michael Avenatti's investigation of the Stormy Daniels situation. Cash is hard to trace.
Yeah, that was basically Rudy Giuliani's argument that, he wanted a paper trail. That's why he suggested, according to Rudy Giuliani, a check instead of cash. The other thing that Rudy said was that, an attorney taping his client without his client knowing about it was totally unheard of and perhaps illegal. Is that true?
Well, it might be totally
Trump said Rudy Giuliani didn't say that?
No, it was Trump who said it in the tweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it was President Trump's tweet. It is totally unheard of, by the way, that you would ever tape a client without the client's consent and you're the attorney. However, it is not illegal in a one-party consent state like New York. One party, that is Michael Cohen, is consenting to the conversation being taped that he did not tell then-candidate Trump. It's just not something that should be done. Now, Michael Cohen can come up with all kinds of rationales, like it was his memorandum to the file was being done as a tape. But the reality is people usually tape conversations to protect themselves.
And finally, explain really briefly to our audience why Rudy Giuliani is not fighting for attorney-client privilege here.
Well, it remains to be seen in a number of levels what his real reasoning is, and it's very difficult to get inside Rudy Giuliani's head today. Number one is he might have thought that it would leak anyway. It was too delicious not to leak. So he wanted to get out in front of it. The best defense is often a good offense. The other thing is we don't know if the special master who was tasked with looking at hundreds of thousands of documents put this in the privilege pile or the non-privilege pile. Third, you wind up with a situation right on the tape where someone's coming in and out of the room because he's looking, then candidate Trump is looking for a Coke. So it may have already been open to the public. But my gut instinct tells me he was afraid it was going to leak.
Rikki Klieman, always great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.